Hi, in this video, we'll be going through the H2 Mathematics 2020 Paper 2. So, let's start. For question 1, it says that a quadratic curve has a minimum point at 1 minus 2 and a gradient at 5. At the point where x equals to 2, find the equation of the curve. So, we now know that it's a quadratic curve, so we have y equals to ax squared plus bx plus c. And when we differentiate it, it will be 2ax plus b. So now we have two equations, and we have two ways to sub it in. So we can first sub x equals to 1, and then we know that y is minus 2. So that means a plus b plus c is minus 2. And then your dy dx, because they say it's a minimum point, must equals to 0. So that means 2a plus b is 0. And then when x equals to 2, you know it has gradient 5. So dy dx is 5. This gives us the third equation, which allows us to solve it because there's 3 unknowns and 3 equations. And so with the help of the GCE, we are able to solve for a is this, b is minus 5, and c is half. Hence, the equation of the curve is y equals to 5 over 2 x squared minus 5x plus half. So this is fairly straightforward, and we have seen it multiple times in previous years. So moving on to the next question, the sequence is such that u1 equals to p and un plus 1 is 2un minus 5. Describe how the sequence behaves when p is 7. So when p is 7, u1 is 7, then u2 you just see the pattern, which is 9. And then you go on. So in this case, you see that u2 is larger than u1, and if you write it out for more terms, you are able to see that un plus 1 is actually larger than un, and you can also just prove it directly. So the sequence will increase infinitely because it will just be larger and larger. But when p equals to 5, you see that u1 is 5, and then u2 is also 5, because 2 times 5 minus 5 is still 5. And then since u2 is 5, u3 has to also be 5, and so this continues, and un plus 1 is also 5 using this recurrence relation. And hence the sequence will just be a constant at un equals to 5 for all n. And we're supposed to find the value of p when u5 equals to 0, 1, 0, 1. And so u5 is just 2u4 minus 5. Then you just keep backtracking. So this is called the backtracking method. So it means you just sub in u4 as 2u3 minus 5. You get this. You sub u3 as 2u2 minus 5. And then you continue on. And so forth. And you'll get p equals to 11 in the end. Another sequence is now defined by v1 equals to a and v2 equals to b. And the recurrence relation is given as vn plus 2 equals to vn plus 2vn plus 1 minus 7. We now know that in this sequence, v4 equals to 2v3. So we are supposed to find the value of b. So given that idea, we know that v4 equals to v2 plus 2v3 minus 7. But since v4 equals to 2v3, we can cancel out this side. And this leaves us that v2, which is b, minus 7 is 0. So b must be 7. And now we're supposed to find an expression in terms of a for v5. So v5, as we said, is v3 plus 2v4 minus 7. But since v4 is 2v3, so this part can be subbed in. And we just need 5v3 minus 7. And we know v3 is v1. We use the backtracking again. v1 plus 2v2 minus 7. So, and we know v1 is a. v2 already is given as 7. So we just sub in, and we should simplify to get 5a plus 28. So V5 is 5a plus 28. I hope that's clear, and we'll move on now. For part C, they say that the sum of the first n terms of the series is n cubed minus 11n squared plus 4n. And we're supposed to find the expression of the nth term. So we already know that Sn is n cubed minus 11n squared plus 4n. So Sn minus 1 must be n minus 1 cubed minus 11n minus 1 squared plus 4n minus 1, which simplifies to n cubed minus 14n squared plus 29n minus 16. I'll leave you to do the simplification, as that should be fairly straightforward unless you have careless mistake, which you shouldn't if you check. So now they ask you how to find the nth term. So the thing is, you see Sn minus 1 is what? It's like your first term plus your next term all the way to Tn minus 1. And then Sn equals to first term plus your next term plus all the way to Tn minus 1 plus Tn. But you see this portion is the repeater over here. So actually Sn equals to Sn minus 1 plus Tn. So Tn is actually Sn minus 1. So using that formula, we know that we just take this, we minus this, and we should get 3n squared minus 25n plus 16. And the next part, they ask us to find the sum of the first m terms of the series is equals to the first 3 terms of this series. And so we're supposed to find the value of m. Well, we know that the first m terms is the sum of the first 3 terms. So that means m cubed minus 11m squared plus 4m must equal to the 3 cubed minus 11 cubed 3 squared plus 4 cubed, which is minus 60. Then you just bring this 60 over, solve this cubic equation using your GC. You should get m equals to 3, and m equals to minus 2, and m equals to 10. But then we know that m has to be greater than 3. So this is rejected, this is also rejected, and so m equals to 10. Question 3, the curve is defined by the parametric equation x equals to 3t squared plus 2, y equals to 6t minus 1. And the line is normal to C at the point 14, 11. So we're supposed to find the Cartesian equation of line. So immediately you see this question, you just straight away implicit differentiate. You get dx dt is 6t, dy dt is 6, so dy dx is 1 over t. At n, y equals to 11, so t must be 2. And the gradient of the normal will just be minus 1 over dy dx evaluated at t equals to 2, which is half. So minus 1 over half equals to minus 2. So the gradient of the normal is minus 2. And then you just use the equation of the normal equation, which is y minus y1 equals to m bracket x minus x1. So this means that y minus 11 equals to minus 2 bracket x minus 14. You are able to get y plus 2x equals to 39. This tells us that A is 2, B is 1, and C is 39. So that this should be a very standard question, and you should be able to do it straightforward if you know the method now. And now we're supposed to find the area enclosed by C, N, and X axis. So the area is, so we just draw our rough C and an N, do a rough sketch. Then we just need to, there are many ways to do so, but what I like to do is we just need to cut off this part, because this part is a straight line. So we love straight lines because we can geometrically visualize a triangle, or maybe a circle, or trapezium, or some sort. So we just draw this straight line, and then we can segment this part, which is just a triangle. So we should use the triangle formula, and then we just need to integrate this part, which is the curve only. So we just integrate normally, and we can arrive at 114 using the GC straight away. And for part 3, they say that the curve C and the line N are both transformed by a two-way stretch a scale factor 2 in the x direction and a scale factor 3 in the y direction to form the curve D and the line M. And we're supposed to find the area enclosed by D, M, and x-axis. So since you stretch two ways and we know n is like this already, and by scale factor 2 in x and scale factor 3, that's basically like you have a graph like that, then you stretch it by two factors in the x direction, so you make it even longer, so like this point goes to here, and then you stretch it by 3 factors. Y is like now up here, so it's like here, so obviously the area is like times 6 in a sense, so just times 6 and you get the answer 3SF. And then now we're supposed to find the Cartesian equation of this D, so we just let x equals to 3t squared plus 2, y equals to 6t minus 1. So now we sub x as, we sub this t equals to y plus 1 over 6 into x, and then after that we sub x as x over 2 and y as y over 3, and then this allows us to times up here, this becomes 6, this becomes 8, and then as a result you're able to, once you simplify everything, you should get x equals to y plus 3 whole thing squared plus 54 over 54 plus 8. So these are all fairly straightforward, and if you have any question, just leave it down in the comment, I'll answer it. And moving on, for question 4, it's a modeling question, and for modeling questions we just need to read the question carefully and try to understand it as best as we can. So in this case, we are given a pyramid cut from a square cardboard, length 30, so this is length 30, and then we know that the length of the sides is A, and then so this is A, and then the height is H over here, and the net is folded to form a pyramid which has a square base of side length A, so A, and the vertical height is now capital H. So we want to show capital H is 225 minus 15a. So we know that capital H equals to h squared minus a over 2 squared. So this is the middle. So this is a over 2. So this becomes a squared over 4. What's h? H, well, if we take 30 and we minus away a, then this part is also h. So 30 minus h over 2. So h is 30 minus a over 2. Then you square it minus a squared over 4. Then we just simplify all the way, and we should get 225 minus 15a. We're supposed to find the maximum volume, and we don't need to show this in maximum, so that makes it very straightforward. So the volume is just 13a squared times the height, which is capital H, and we know capital H is just square root 225 minus 15a, and we just differentiate it with respect to a using the product rule, which will arrive to something like this. Then we just let dA equal to 0, as we always do, to find maximum, which means the numerator has to be 0. So this part is 0. That means a is 0 or a is 12. So obviously a has to be positive, so we reject this part. So a equals to 12, and this allows us to find the maximum volume, which is 3223SF. And in the next part, the third part, part A, will be finding the value of A for which the total surface area is now maximum. So you just find the surface area formula, which is 4. So you have the 4 triangles times half times h times a, so that gives you 30a minus a squared. You differentiate it, you get this, and when you consider it, you just get a equals to 15. So that's simple to do. And now we're supposed to describe the shape formed when the net from the net, where in this case, so a equals to 15, h is 15 over 2. We actually see the capital H squared is 0. So the net, you can't really like form the net in a sense, theoretically. but the pyramid in a sense, but when you draw the neck, it like takes up the whole space, so the height is 0 and it will just be like flat in that case. So because h squared is 0, so that's why the height is 0, so it's just flat. So I've come to the end of this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you do, please like, share, and subscribe. Subscribing will do me a big favor as you'll reach out to more people. So comment down below any questions that you have, and I'll see you again. Bye.